Preseason is one of the most important times for fantasy hockey. This is where we find out all of the news, from crazy injuries to players that are just ailing day-to-day injuries, to players getting moved to different lines, teams moving around their first line, their second line, who's going to be in the top six, and most importantly, finding out who's going to be on each team's top power play unit, at least to start the season. So in this video, this was very well received last year. I'm going to be breaking down all of the major news that I have found and all the major news that has come out in the preseason and their impact on specific players throughout the league. This is going to be a good video, guys, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Let's jump right into it with the major injury news. I'm going to start off with Roman Josi. This is more of an update in terms of his status and output going into the season. What we've seen so far, and a lot of the interviews have said, is that Josi is 100% this season. He dealt with POTS, which is like a heart condition where you have like an irregular heartbeat, if I'm not mistaken. So with Roman Josi this season, he looks to be 100% healthy. What we've seen through 2 preseason games so far, he skated 23 minutes and then 27 minutes, meaning there's no cap, there's no limit for him this season. And right now, he's going about round 4 and round 5 in fantasy drafts because people don't know the status of Josi. But what we've seen early on is it's very good news, and you can still be able to draft him at a pretty significant discount for a guy, in my opinion, that should be defenseman 3 off the board after Makar and Hughes, if we knew that Josi was 100% 1 or 2 weeks ago. So for right now, this is a guy that's going like ADP 50-ish right now, and I think he could end up easily as a top 30, top 25 player like he always does in fantasy. So a lot of love from me for Roman Josi, and very, very happy to see the news, because my selfish take is I do have him in 2 keeper leagues, and I am keeping him. So this is really good news for me personally too. So the most horrific news in the NHL, this is really, really tough. One of the best players in the entire league, Alexander Barkov, took a weird spill in practice, and he looks to have torn his knee, and he does require surgery. I read he will be out 7 to 9 months, which is a massive loss to the Florida Panthers, a massive loss to the Finnish Olympic team, and a big loss for those who have already drafted and already took Alexander Barkov. Very difficult news to basically overcome. Now, what we've seen so far is that Sam Bennett, and I will jump into this in the line changes, it looks like Bennett will be filling in the top line with Sam Reinhart and Carter Verhaeghe, and this makes Bennett arguably one of the #1 league winners in fantasy if he can sustain this role in the top line and potentially play on the top power play unit. He's going to be seeing a lot more minutes. We know Barkov plays like 22 plus minutes per night, so these minutes are going to shuffle down to both Sam Bennett and Anton Lundell. I like Lundell quite a bit later in drafts, maybe around 13, 14, but with Sam Bennett, this is a guy you can potentially be looking at round 10 plus right now that can pay off huge value if he continues to sustain a line 1 role. We could see pretty much the highest minutes of his entire career. So although it's very difficult news with the Alexander Barkov injury, there are benefits to both Sam Bennett and Anton Lundell. With Zach Hyman here, it looks like he is still lingering his wrist injury that he sustained in playoffs last year. They said he will not be ready until at least November 1st. So in terms of drafting him, I still think he's a very solid draftable player. He will sustain that power play 1 role, will probably continue to play on the first line when he comes back. I still think I'd be able to draft Hyman about round 10 plus. Maybe around 9. I don't think I'd go anything earlier than that, just because it's going to be difficult for a guy that's going to miss maybe the first 20 games of the season, but could be really good value later in the year. Now, the benefit to Hyman, and for those who play in leagues that have IR plus, is that you could draft him, put him on your IR or like right away, and then use that empty spot to stream players. For me, I'm a big guy that likes to stream goalies, especially in points leagues, because they're almost guaranteed. They're almost guaranteed points if it's a good matchup. So that is basically the strategy you can use if you are drafting Zach Hyman. Now, the same thing like we saw last season is Artemi Panarin is currently ailing a lower body injury. He hasn't skated with the team in a non-contact jersey until yesterday. So that's really good news from Panarin. It looks like he's going to be fully healthy to start the season. I have no panic. I'm still drafting him, but it looks like he is falling a little bit in drafts right now. This is the exact same thing we saw last season. If I'm not mistaken, he was also dealing with a lower body injury last year, and we weren't sure if he was going to start the season, and he did and played 80 games total. So I'm still definitely going to be on Panarin here. Lastly, we have Jamie Benn. He has a collapsed lung, very unfortunate injury for 36-year-old Jamie Benn, and it looks like he will be reevaluated in about 4 weeks. I don't see a real bump to anybody here. He wasn't going to be on power play one. He wasn't a top six role, but it looks like Maverick Bork might be moving up. So I don't think any significant changes from this Jamie Benn injury. They did shuffle their lines around a little bit, but for me, no real impact to fantasy. Moving down the list of injuries, we have Drake Batherson, who sustained an upper body injury. It looks like he will be out about 2 weeks. But he should be ready for the home opener or the season opener. So it looks like he basically won't be playing in preseason, maybe a little bit slow out the gate. A very, very good forward in fantasy, power play points, shots, points, hits. He basically does everything. If this hurts his draft stock, I think it makes it even more attractive to be drafting Drake Batherson because it doesn't look like this injury is super serious. But they did say a minimum of 2 weeks, so we're not 100% sure if he will start the season. With Alex Ovechkin here, a lower body injury. It looks like he's kind of dealing with something pretty minor. He has been skating, has been taking some drills, and it looks like he should be ready for the start of the season. If we know Ovechkin, he doesn't like the All-Star game, and he probably doesn't like preseason as well. So with Ovi, I don't think there'd be any panic. Again, another guy like Batherson is, if his draft stock falls, it's even better for you to take him at a pretty big discount. With Joseph Woll here, it looks like he is taking a leave of absence, which basically makes it completely unpredictable in terms of when he will come back. So we have no timetable to his return, but this gives a massive, massive bump to Anthony Stolarz. Now, I was out of town this weekend. I didn't fully see what happened, but I heard Stolarz did leave the game potentially. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong on that. But still, if Stolarz is fully healthy to start the season, he will be the biggest, probably biggest upgrade in terms of any goalie going into the year. Knowing that their 1B isn't going to be healthy, Stolarz should get the bulk of the starts here on a pretty solid Toronto Maple Leafs team. We know how good Stolarz can be when he plays. It's just a matter of health for him. With Logan Cooley here, probably one of the highest conviction draft picks across fantasy this season. A lot of people are really high on Cooley. He's dealing with an undisclosed injury. The last update was September 22nd. He looks like he's still day-to-day. I don't see any reason to panic right now. It looks like it's just kind of a minor injury that he's dealing with. He should be good to start the season. I have no indication of that. But because they're saying it's day-to-day and it doesn't seem serious, that's kind of what I'm going off of. Lastly here, Gabriel Landeskog, a little bit big of a question mark going into the season. Will he be healthy? Will he have restrictions? From what they said, from what David Bednar said, there's basically no limit for Landeskog this season. He's going to play as if it's a completely normal season for him. We know how horrific that injury was. He was able to get into 5 playoff games last year and put up 4 points. I don't see him on power play 1 right now, but he still is skating in the top 6. So I love the value you can get out of potentially fully healthy Landeskog at around 12 plus. Maybe he takes a little bit of a step back because that injury was pretty significant to his thigh muscle, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously your thighs and your legs are probably one of the most, if not the most important thing for any player, especially with skating. So with Landeskog here, I don't see any reason to panic on him. I think he's very, very good draft value at around 12 plus. So a couple more injuries. This is basically all the other significant ones. We have David Pastrnak. He looks like he's dealing with some minor tendonitis, had to change up his whole training routine this offseason and go from running previously to now biking a lot more. It did say that he was dealing with this tendonitis for the last couple of years, and he did deal with it last year. Still put up over 100 points. I still think it's a little bit concerning because this is being talked about a little bit more, which tells me that this tendonitis may be a bit worse than they actually think. I'm still going to be drafting him in the first round, but I don't know if I like him in the first 7 picks. It's really difficult to say. I don't know. I have the FPPL draft on Monday night. This is going to be coming out Monday at 3 p.m. I don't know how I feel about drafting him. If I do get that 7 or 8 spot right now, I may just lean over to Brady Tkachuk. But with Pastrnak, tendonitis, knee injury, not really good news for him there. With Brandon Montour, looks like he did have off-season surgery to repair an ankle injury. They said he will miss the entire training camp, but should be ready for the home opener. I think with this news, it kind of makes me lean towards a little bit more trying to draft Vince Dunn if he's falling pretty late, because we don't know the severity of this injury. Maybe Montour the minutes are reduced to start the season, and as they slowly transition him back from the ankle injury, kind of like what we saw with Drew Doughty last season. But with Montour, doesn't seem to be affecting his status for the season opener. So I think for me, I'm still going to be drafting Montour as if he's healthy. With Matt Zuccarello, this is a really weird one. It said something has come up and he is going to miss some time into the regular season. This is a guy that's a staple in the top 6 for the Minnesota Wild. I don't see it having any significant impacts on the forwards up front. But for Zuccarello, I probably wouldn't be drafting him until we get some more news in terms of what the severity of whatever he's dealing with is. Lastly, we have Noah Dobson. It looks like he did leave Thursday's preseason game. If he is hurt long term or even short term, I think the biggest bump goes to Lane Hudson and potentially Michael Matheson, who may be now in the power play too, and just seeing those big minutes that we saw to Matheson in previous seasons. For Dobson, I would be a little bit worrisome in terms of I'm not on him at all this season. I will not be drafting Noah Dobson because Lane Hudson's there. But if you are looking to draft him, I would maybe wait a round or two. I'm seeing him going about round 6 and 7 in competitive drafts. So maybe round 9 or 10 is where you can look to grab Dobson as your defenseman 3. But just keep in mind that he is dealing with some sort of injury that he left the game with. Hopefully it's not significant. Hopefully we find out some pretty positive news, because I'm very bullish on the Montreal Canadiens this season. Okay, so the second segment here is now going to be going over some of the more significant line changes that we've seen. I don't want to go through every single line in the NHL, just anything significant that could potentially improve a player's performance this year for fantasy. So a couple slides on the lines, and then we'll jump over to the meat and potatoes that everyone's waiting for, is the power play updates. So right now, the biggest thing I've seen so far is Marco Rossi will be centering Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy to begin the season. Huge bump to Marco Rossi, playing with 200-point forwards here, potentially 100-point forwards. I think I would be able to draft Rossi around 12 plus, maybe a bit earlier, but because of that sole center position, what we've seen in those competitive drafts is those centers are falling significantly right now. And what we're seeing is like the big centers, the Joel Eriksson X, the Vincent Trocheck's, the John Tavares's. Those are guys that I would look to take before Marco Rossi, because Rossi doesn't have good peripherals, but the point upside, the goal scoring upside is still there. But I still probably wouldn't be taking him over any of those big name centers. I had a lot of comments about like, how does this affect Joel Eriksson Ek? I still think it doesn't significantly affect Eriksson Ek, because he will be playing line 2. He'll still be playing those 20 plus minutes per night, power play 1, penalty kill 1, and still doing his shots, hits, blocks, everything that he contributes. So I wouldn't panic at all with Joel Eriksson Ek. And also the Minnesota Wild, they changed their lines a lot. So we'll keep that in mind with Joel Eriksson Ek. He may move up if Rossi struggles. I did read, which I didn't know this last year, is that Rossi got benched in the playoffs last year. So keep that in mind with Rossi. This is a short-term bump for him. We don't know the long-term upside with him, but I do like him at around 12 plus right now. Now we have Ivan Barbashev, who was a sleeper for me 2 years ago, I want to say. I'm skating on the left wing with Eichel and Marner, two guys that I can maybe safely say are 100-point players over Kaprizov and Boldy. I don't know who's a better point-getting duo than over Eichel and Marner or Kaprizov and Boldy, but still very good. With him on the top line, I don't see him on the top power play unit, but he would be a pretty interesting draft choice at around 13 plus to get some of those residual points from Eichel and Marner, who should be dominating at 5-on-5. Marco Kasper here looks to be centering DeBrincat and Kane. He will be this team's second line center, with Dylan Larkin obviously being the number one guy for the Detroit Red Wings there. I don't see him on the top power play unit right now, and I think I'd be drafting Kasper around 13 plus. Very good hit and shot totals, as well as decent point upside for a guy that had a pretty strong rookie season, playing alongside Kane and DeBrincat, who we know have had much success in their career together. Now, with the New York Rangers, there's been a lot with the Rangers. Like, this has been the hardest thing for me to keep up with, is like what's going on in New York right now. But it looks like they are going to be skating out Will Cooley, JT Miller, and Mika Zibanejad as their top line, with Zibanejad on the wing this season with Miller playing center. We know Miller is one of the best faceoff guys in the league. Trocheck is up there too, top 5 of Sidney Crosby as well. But anyways, with Mika Zibanejad, it looks like he will be getting winger eligibility. I think he already does on Yahoo. So this gives him a pretty big bump, having winger eligibility and being able to play center as well. And I think with Cooley on top line, just a small bump to him, but it looks like Zibanejad is going to retain that top power play duties. There's a lot more that the Rangers need to do this season to become the team they were a few years ago, and getting Mika Zibanejad going is going to be one of the most important things. Lastly here, with the St. Louis Blues, we have the top line of Buchnevich, Thomas, and Snuggerud. Huge bump to Snuggerud playing on the top line, and he's on the top power play unit, which again, I'll get into later in this video, but a huge bump to Snuggerud, who I'm seeing not even being drafted right now. He's a guy that you can probably be adding on the waiver wire. I don't think his roster percentage is very high this season. A guy I would look to take as a lottery ticket pick in the last 2 rounds of draft, with huge upside, playing alongside Robert Thomas and Pavel Buchnevich, as well as the top power play unit. He's a goal scoring player playing playing with Robert Thomas, that we know is one of the best playmakers in the league. So a lot of love here from Jimmy Snuggerud. Moving on to the Utah Mammoth, we have the top line. Even though Cooley has been day-to-day, when the team was fully healthy, it looks like they're going to roll out the Gunther, Cooley, Peterka top line, and then the Schmaltz, Barrett Hayton, and Clayton Keller second line, which is a line they love together. So I also really like this Utah Mammoth top line, and Guenther, Cooley, Peterka. May take them a little bit to get going with Peterka, just be new to their systems and their chemistry and everything. But I love the Cooley and Guenther mix. Guenther, we all know, is going to be an extremely good player this season. So I don't think there's a major bump to anyone other than maybe a little bit in Cooley and a little bit in Peterka. But I think we kind of knew that Cooley was already going to be in the top 6 and playing alongside Dylan Guenther. But it's good to see that Peterka's there as well. Next up, we have the San Jose Sharks' second overall pick, Michael Misa, centering William Eklund and Tyler Toffoli. A lot of love for Misa. It looks like he may be making the team out of camp. We know that they are very good with handling their young prospects. We saw it with Eklund. We saw it with Will Smith. We saw it with Macklin Celebrini. And now we're looking to see it with Michael Misa, who I think will be sneaky good this season as an underrated forward to be drafting. The only issue is he's just sole center position. But in those 14 to 16 team leagues, I would not be hesitating to draft Michael Misa here. Moving on, we have the Detroit Red Wings with DeBrincat, Casper, and Kane. It looks like Casper will be centering the top line. I did talk about that in the last slide, so let's move on to the New Jersey Devils. We have Gritsuk, I wish his first name was Pavel, playing alongside Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. I've been reading a lot about this Gritsuk guy. He has dominated camp. He came over from Russia. He was very good in St. Petersburg. He's firing the puck at a very elite rate right now in preseason. I think you can be drafting him as a lottery ticket draft pick to playing with two guys in Hughes and Bratt, who we know are extremely good. This Gritsuk, he looks like he's going to be playing on the power play too as well. So a lot of upside here for a guy that basically is going completely undrafted. Lastly, Verhaeghe, Bennett, and Reinhart. I said I was going to talk about it, but the biggest bump right now seems to be Sam Bennett, who will be skating on the top line in Barkov's absence. I haven't seen anything on their top power play unit. There are a bunch of teams that really haven't had that stable top power play yet. So I don't know how their power play is going to shape out. If you've seen anything on Twitter, let me know in the comment section below what you've seen. But big bump to Sam Bennett here, who will be centering the top line of Verhaeghe and Reinhart. And I think we see a pretty big bump in his minute. Okay, so let's jump into the good part, the power play updates. So what we've seen so far in camp, there has been a number of teams that have skated with their top power play unit, with their whole roster there. So I'm going to start it off with just the teams I've written down as early as possible. Calgary Flames are going to be running out Huberdeau, Morgan Frost, Kadri, Coronado, and Mackenzie Weegar. That looks like what their top power play is going to be to start the season. But Zane Parekh is making a name for himself. He scored a power play goal in last night's preseason game on Saturday night. So I don't know if Weegar will continue to sustain this spot on top power play unit. But for right now, he has been the guy that's been skating there in practice alongside the other 4 players. A huge bump to Matt Coronado as well, who is a very intriguing player. He put up 47 points last season, just signed a big ticket with them. He's a very, very underrated sleeper going into the season. With Weegar here, even if he's not top power play unit, he still plays massive minutes, and you're not drafting Weegar for the point upside. You're drafting him for those 200 shots, 200 hits, 200 blocks that he does. Basically, him and Mort Seider are the only defensemen that contribute this elite to the peripheral production. So Coronado, Weegar, biggest surprises, biggest upside there. Now with the Vancouver Canucks, it looks like it will be a Vander Kane skating on that top power play unit. Again, I haven't said this yet, but with Daily Faceoff, just be very cautious with their updates because they don't update stuff as I see on Twitter. And what I see on Twitter is directly from the beat writers, from the people that are there and watching those practices. It looks like in last night's game on Saturday, this power play was actually really strong. So a huge bump to a Vander Kane here, who's a guy that we don't draft him for his points, similar to Weegar. We draft him for those shots and hits. So if he's skating top power play unit, there's definitely a lot of upside there. Moving to the Toronto Maple Leafs, Morgan Rielly is going to be quarterbacking the top power play unit. We know Matthew Knies was going to be there, but I just wanted to highlight him to show that there's a ton of upside with Matthew Knies this season. He's going to have his first full season as a power play 1 player. And then Morgan Rielly moving back to that top unit with the absence of Mitch Marner now. A lot of upside from Morgan Rielly there on defense. A guy that's going he's being very underdrafted right now, going about round 11, round 12. He's almost like one of the last PP1 defensemen going off the board in competitive leagues right now. and he's had at least 40 points in his last 4 seasons. And the last time he was power play 1, he had 58 points. So a lot of upside there for Morgan Riley. Moving on to the New York Islanders, it looks like it will be Tony DeAngelo to start off on that quarterback in that top power play unit, not Matt Schaefer. What we've seen with the Islanders so far is they've been cycling Schaefer and Boquist on their power play too. So I don't know how I feel fully about Schaefer going into this season. And Jonathan Drouin as well, their recent acquisition, will be on the top power play unit to start the season. No real surprise there. Palmieri, Horvat, Barzal, all guys that will be on the top power play unit. No Brock Nelson this season for them. He's going to be on the Colorado Avalanche. So it opens up a spot for Drouin there. And then Tony DeAngelo will be quarterbacking that top power play unit. Lastly here with the Winnipeg Jets, just like I've hoped, Cole Perfetti will be on that amazing top power play unit in place of Nikolai Ehlers. So it's going to be Velarde, Connor, Scheifele, Perfetti, Morrissey. So basically exactly what we saw last season, just with Perfetti now in the spot of Nikolai Ehlers. A huge bump for him this season, going on to the team's best, or the league's best power play for Cole Perfetti. So a lot of upside for him there. And I think he has one of the biggest bumps of any player. Moving on to the Dallas Stars. So this is another thing that's changed a lot. So we initially saw Thomas Harley skating on the top power play unit. But as of yesterday, as of Saturday, it looks like it's Miro Heiskanen back, quarterback in the top power play unit. It's really difficult to pick between the two guys right now. Harley's going about 4 rounds earlier than Miro Heiskanen. And we had news earlier that it was going to be Harley, and now it looks like it's Heiskanen. So I would proceed with caution with both of those players. I don't know how it's going to play out. Dallas last year went to a power play 1A and power play 1B. They have arguably like the best power play 2 when Jamie Benn was healthy. So I don't know how it's going to play out right now, but I'd be a little bit more cautious drafting Thomas Harley because it looks like it will be Heiskanen on top power play unit. We don't know. Maybe we'll get some more updates, but as things come out, I'll be sure to update everybody. Moving on to the Carolina Hurricanes, it looks like it's going to be Nikolai Ehlers. No real surprise there, moving up to the top unit. We thought maybe Jackson Blake would be there, maybe Stankoven, but they're going to be running out Aho, Ehlers, Jarvis, Svechnikov, and Shane Gostisbehere again on the top power play unit. There was a little bit of talk of maybe Nikishin going there. It looks like Nikishin will be power play 2. Gostisbehere really has just shaped himself into like a Jake Gardner type of guy where he's just going to be solely for special teams. I like Gostisbehere quite a bit in fantasy this season, so he's definitely a guy you want to be looking at later in drafts. Now, with the St. Louis Blues, I had so many comments about Logan Mailloux being the top power play guy. I couldn't really figure out why. I know they traded for him, but they also traded for Cam Fowler. So I didn't know why there was so much hype around Mailloux, but it looks like they're rolling out what I thought with Holloway, Buchnevich, Sneggerud, Thomas, and Fowler. Kyrou will be on the second power play unit. So for here, big bump to Jamie Snuggerud, big bump to Cam Fowler, who we knew was going to be power play 1. In their last preseason game with their full lineup, Fowler played 25 minutes and 26 seconds. So if we see that for the entire season, he should easily contend for a league winner position. With the Tampa Bay Lightning, one of the best power plays in the league, we know with Nikita Kucherov there, it's always going to be scary. It looks like they're not going to be rolling out Brandon Hagel as the 5th guy on their top power play unit. So far, they've practiced with Oliver Bjorkstrand being there on the top power play unit, and that's pretty interesting from Bjorkstrand, who we know has been a sleeper for a couple of years when he was on Columbus. He was okay with Seattle, but now here with the Tampa Bay Lightning, it's a pretty big bump to Bjorkstrand if he will be skating on this top power play unit for the entirety of the season or even to start the year. It's a good lottery ticket bet late in drafts right now, so I don't mind the Bjorkstrand upside. Lastly here, the Utah Mammoth. I don't know if there's any real surprises. So when Cooley was healthy, he wasn't on the top power play unit. He was on power play 2, which I think we'll see change. But for right now, they're running out Sergachev, Keller, Hayton, Schmaltz, and Gunther. I just highlighted Gunther because I think we knew he was going to be power play 1, but just confirming that he's going to be there. I can see things changing quickly with the Mammoth as we get updates from Logan Cooley. I can't see them rolling out Barrett Hayton over Cooley. I would be really surprised, but when Cooley was healthy, he was power play 2. So we'll see what happens here going into the season for the Mammoth. It's going to hurt Cooley if he is going to be power play 2. But again, we'll see as things begin to change in preseason. Moving on to the next set of power play updates, we have the Chicago Blackhawks. We did not know who was going to be the power play 1 defenseman. For right now, what we're seeing in camp, it is going to be Sam Rinzel, who is a huge sleeper going into this season. He had 5 points in the power play and through 9 games. 3 points in the power play, 5 total points through his first 9 games as a rookie last season. And he has looked extremely good in camps. If you've seen any of those updates, he's been a very interesting defenseman. So with Renzel, I think he gets a massive bump here, knowing he will be quarterback in the top unit to start the season. He's going basically last round in drafts right now. And Frank Nazar, if he just didn't have the sole center eligibility, I would be way more on him, but that hurts him quite a bit right now. But he will be on the top power play unit, so probably one of the top waiver wire guys to watch. And speaking of top waiver wire guys to watch, it's going to be Josh Norris of the Buffalo Sabres, who is moving up to the top line with Tage Thompson, as well as the top power play unit with Tuck, Zucker, Tage, and Rasmus Dahlin. Very interesting with Norris because we haven't seen a fully healthy season of him, I don't think ever. So he's a very big injury risk, but probably one of the top guys on top of Nazar to be watching early in the season to kind of see what happens. I know he had 3 points last night on Saturday's preseason game. So a lot of upside there, just playing alongside Tage Thompson, but also skating on the team's top power play unit. With the Minnesota Wild, it's great to see that it will be Zeev Buium on the top power play unit with Boldy, Joel Eriksson Ek, Marco Rossi, and Kirill Kaprizov. So Rossi is going to be line 1, power play 1 to start the season. And it looks like Buium will also be skating top pair with Brock Faber. We may see a massive season out of Zeev Buium. I would be drafting him over Zane Parekh because he is confirmed going to be playing the top power play unit to start the season. So a lot of upside there from Rossi and Zeev Buium. Moving on to the Red Wings, I don't think this is a change from last season, but I just want to emphasize Seider's still going like 4th round right now in competitive drafts, like defenseman number like 12 or 13 off the board. This is a guy that not only has triple 200 upside in his peripherals, but also has pretty significant point upside. So with Seider, he'd be on the top power play unit. I think he should easily fall as a 3rd round pick if you have shots, blocks, and hits in your league, because there's a ton of upside from a peripheral standpoint, as well as his top power play unit was top 5 in the league last year. So a ton of upside for him there. Lastly, with the Colorado Avalanche, I was really hoping we would see Gabriel Landeskog on the top unit, but it looks like they're going to be running out Nichushkin, Nelson, Natchez, McKinnon, and Makar on the top unit. With Nelson there, pretty big bump to a guy who has done it time and time again. I don't know if he's like a 5-year in a row 30 goal scorer, but something close to that. One of the top goal scorers in the league consecutively. He seems to be a very safe pick in fantasy. I don't see him being drafted at all right now in competitive leagues. So this is a guy I would scoop up last 2 rounds of the draft to potentially skate on one of the best power play units in the league in the Colorado Avalanche and be centering the second line. A lot of upside from Brock Nelson there, and I love him with his new team. We know what the Avalanche do. They don't play their bottom 6 players at all in the 3rd period. They just run out the top 2 lines, and McKinnon ends up with 24 minutes on a night. And we may see the same thing with Brock Nelson here moving into a power play 1 role. That tells me he may be the 6th guy on the ice in an empty net situation too, but I still love the upside from Brock Nelson later in drafts. That will do it to the preseason video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. As always, we'll see you in the next video.